Hello there. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Marche. I'm the webinar director here at Advice Chaser. We're so glad to have you here. Before we introduce our guests and get started, I need to do a little bit of legal housekeeping. Advice Chaser, the host of this webinar, is not a registered investment advisor. We cannot and do not give financial advice. Today's presentation is for educational purposes only and cannot be considered advice for any person's individual situation. Advice Chaser regularly hosts informative webinars, such as this one, featuring a variety of knowledgeable professionals, many of whom are licensed advisors. Any opinions, ideas, jokes, or principles expressed by presenters are their own, and however true, funny, or interesting are not endorsed by Advice Chaser. Please do not act on the information you hear today without consulting a qualified financial professional. We are thrilled to bring you today's educational presentation. Attendees are muted, but we do encourage you to ask questions using the chat box, and the presenter will answer those queries during or after the webinar today as appropriate. If you ask a question in the chat box, go ahead and leave your phone number or email address as well. If we can't get to your question, we'll make sure someone reaches out to you after today's event. We want this experience to be as educational as possible, so please don't hesitate to ask for clarification or expansion of the material. I'd love to introduce you to our guests today. Our moderator today is Sheldon Sweeney. Sheldon is extremely passionate about helping families and their children with special needs. He connects with them on a personal level because his youngest daughter has Down syndrome. Sheldon enjoys helping families who are planning for retirement, as well as business owners who need advice on creating an exit plan while protecting their businesses or the business they have built. Starting in 2012, Sheldon built his business at Pacific Capital Resource Group, Inc. in Bellevue, Washington, as a financial advisor, establishing niches. Sheldon then received an opportunity to move his business to Snyder Financial Group as a wealth advisor in 2019. Sheldon holds 3 designations: the Chartered Special Needs Consultant, Retirement Income Certified Professional, and the Chartered Financial Consultant. He is also life and disability licensed. And I know we'll hear from you, but why don't you go ahead and come on camera really quick, Sheldon, and say hello so people can see you.
Okay, Marche, thank you. It's great to be here today. I look forward to hearing from Christy.
All right, our speaker today is Christy Bateman, and she is the program director for Enigma ASD Services. She has worked directly with students on the autism spectrum for over 20 years. As a previous special educator and administrator, she is focused on teaching and supporting the development of social skills and executive functioning skills for students. Her primary passion is educating not only students on the spectrum, but also the surrounding community and environment. She considers herself a translator between 2 worlds with the goal of acceptance from everyone. And Christy, we're so excited to have you here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to you.
Awesome. Thank you. And thanks for having me here. Appreciate it. I've worked with people with disabilities, as Marche was saying, for over 20 years. I used to be a special educator at the high school level and ran a really amazing program there. It's kind of a Shangri-La where typical students would come in and work with neurotypical students, and everybody kind of learned different ways that they view the world. And we were able to do autism awareness lessons, other lessons with teachers and the entire school and district, even at that level, to be able to give our students a voice as to how they were progressing and what they were feeling and thinking. And then they would graduate and I didn't have anything to hand them off to. So I think that the transitional world between high school and college, or college and beyond, has really made a lot of progress over the last several years. And it still has a lot to go. I left the school district in 2018 and have been working with young adults, which has been way better for me, because I would much rather help with laundry and how to talk to your college professor than analyzing ducks in a pond and Catcher in the Rye, or that kind of thing. So some of the things that I've noticed with parents is that they're not quite sure where or how to guide their student who has unique needs once they graduate from high school, and what kind of things to prep for in high school. So we try to be that link to all different kinds of supports that can happen in college, with executive functioning, with practicing job skills and keeping a job. Social relationships are huge, because there's, when you're in high school, you're kind of surrounded by all these people. And then when you leave, you're like, where did my community go? How do you make friends as an adult? Which most of us, I think, struggle with anyways. So we try to help people find their own tribe. And we've also looked at a lot of different housing options. So I can give options to parents and young adults for what might be the best fit for them. And I've been lucky to have my dream come true and start my own housing program. And then there's the question of, well, how do you pay for all of this? The way that we work it at Enigma and at Thrive is that we have we have families, parents, we have guardians, we have young adults themselves reach out to us and are like, here's what I'm dealing with. What do I do? How can you help? And so I help to just kind of figure out what their strengths are, what their struggles are. When you're thinking about your own kid, you might have a really long list of things you want them to accomplish. And it's okay to break that down and be like, let's tackle just a little bit of each at a time, or let's just focus on one thing. Reaching out to, I think, community and networking. A lot of us got our first jobs by networking and talking with other people. And so that's really important to be able to do that. Looking at your the ARC in your county that has kind of a long list of resources, so that you know what you can plan for. The biggest thing that we found, even when I was at the high school level, that was the most effective for supporting young adults with their goals, whether that's college or social or independent living, is finding mentorship and coaching. Got Studies is like awesome. That's a nationwide program that does that kind of thing. And those are the types of employees that we hire to coach with our clients. Because they can hear it differently than they do from parents, right? It's like once your young adult becomes a young adult, it's about time that you start having a relationship with your child as if they are an adult, and they don't necessarily hear their parents like they would have when they were younger. So we step in to kind of be like the mediator, coacher that's going through the same process as they are. So there's some camaraderie there. And also just being okay with admitting that you don't know exactly what you're doing, and that's okay, and normalizing that. I just try to link with lots of different types of support programs, because there's not a one size fits all ever. Everybody is all unique, and they all need different things. So I always talk about how in this business, it's not really a competitive business, because there's certainly plenty of need, but it's just about finding the right fit and making sure that everyone is progressing to the best of their ability.
Yeah, Christy, we actually did have a couple of questions pop up already. So it sounds like in the work that you do, you know, one of the features is that you are just connecting people. Like you're kind of a clearing house for services, and you help get people over to what best suits them based on your experience.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We have, and even as I came out as a high school teacher, it was a huge learning curve for me, right? And I'm not, there's just such a huge gap. Like we're not letting high school educators know exactly what resources are out there so they can pass that on with families. And now, now I have a huge list. So if anybody is calling and talking to me, we kind of have our own little session of consultation of like, okay, well, this program isn't going to quite be the best fit for you, but this one over here is going to give you exactly what you're looking for and might be better. So yeah, absolutely. I spend a lot of time doing that. It's my favorite thing. I love talking with parents. And
I'm glad you did step into that void though, because I agree. The families that I help too, it's like, oh my gosh, it's just where do I go next? There was a quick question on networking that in terms of skill sets. So are you able to help teach a skill like networking? So other than the mentoring feature, is that like a teachable skill, networking?
yeah, I would say that goes under self-advocacy. And what's interesting about self-advocacy is that it's it's not generalized with most of the clients that I work with. Like maybe they learn to advocate for themselves with their teacher, but then there's also advocating for yourself with your friends, with your parents, with your bosses, with your neighbors, and just really recognizing that it's an um, interdependent society. We're not like looking for independence where you just stand on your own, all alone on your island, and then everything is going to work out great. We really are on this planet all together to help each other, and people really do want to help. They just need to be asked. So, having that kind of mindset and talking with some of the young adults about that helps to, normalize that. Like, I'm not going to try and fix my own tire. I'm gonna ask somebody
Yeah,
else to help.
because sadly, that's sort of the tendency, right? There's sort of a tendency that in the, especially like my daughter with Down syndrome, cognitive impairment. I mean, we see a lot of isolation, so it is hard to the whole journey, like to continue to help and build a community or accept support.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's kind of a pride thing that goes in there, but it's practice. It just takes practice. And even, some clients, like they learn better doing it in writing first before they can do it face to face. And then others are like, I'm not going to send this email. I'll just talk to them, and just it's definitely a skill that needs to be practiced and pointed out that that's something to focus on. That, oh my gosh, you told me that you didn't want to do something. That's amazing. Thank you for voicing what's going on with you. Yeah,
Awesome.
that's a good question.
So in this whole title of like independent living is almost a little bit of a misnomer, right? Because
Right.
you're independent from your parents, but you're certainly not solo.
Totally. I just don't think the marketing works with calling it interdependent living. I don't really know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
Like the buzzword, but yeah, I mean, once you're looking for that, you're trying to get out of your parents' house, or maybe your parents are recognizing that you would flourish more if you were outside of the house and you don't recognize that yet in yourself. So just kind of talking about what if you weren't going to live at home anymore, or the dorms aren't for you at college, what kind of space would you like? Because I have some that are very clear on what they don't want, and that is a great place to start. Oh, you don't want to live with anyone else. Okay. All right. So we're looking at studios, you do want roommates. How much coaching do you think you might need? And being able to have a flexible program to allow them to shift as they go. So maybe like we have some clients that live on their own in their own apartments, and we just go and check in on them. And maybe we always start with like twice a week, and then we flex from there. Some people move up to needing like daily check-ins for a while, and then others are like, I'll see you like twice a month. That sounds good for me now, depending on what their needs might be. Yeah, because I think that there's a lot of young adults that are just they get really comfortable. That's not a disability alone concern. That is just a lot of young adults, they're like, this is good. I've got it good here. This is comfortable. But I always tell my clients that growth comes from stepping outside of your comfort zone, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
When you're talking about like the check-ins, I mean, that's got to be kind of challenging because like you said, like every person's unique, right? So there's no cookie cutter for how this works, but is it a in-person check-in when you say check-in?
Right. Not sometimes there's we'll do some clients communicate better online. They sign in on time, you know, they don't miss meetings. You can share screens when you're doing like college work and organization stuff for Canvas for college and stuff like that. And online works really great. I've had some clients that I work with that they'll like take me on their phone around the room and we're looking at dishes and where the laundry is and stuff. And then others where that just is not a good format. We need to be in person and connecting and looking at things, or maybe side by side, because it can also be kind of confrontational being face to face on Zoom.
Yeah.
So yeah, the when I have parents call me about like housing type stuff, or even some of the young adults, we kind of talk about where the levels are of like adaptive skills and really what they're able to do on their own. With the housing program that I help to develop, it is specifically for young adults who don't otherwise generally qualify for government funding. So they might be underemployed, but they're getting their degree in college, but they need a little bit of help of like trying to figure out how to manage all of that. And then, you know, just a safety blanket for like a year or so of here's how you live on your own, here's how you ask for help. And so we'll have people check in with them like 10 minutes a day in the apartment complex that we have set up. They live on their own. And then they have like different kinds of groups and gathers that they've developed, so that they've got that social community that's really important. Find other people who think like them, and cooking instruction and stuff like that. And then have bigger coaching meetings where you sit down and really do like goal setting, like this, okay, right now I'm really working on my grocery shopping and being healthy and doing meal planning. And that will move into financial budgeting, which moves into, you know, jobs, and then looking at roommates for subsequent years, and relationships is huge. So executive functioning is big. It's there's a lot of skills that go into executive functioning. I know it's kind of like a buzzword by now, but it's a fancy word for just all things organizational. And maybe, you know, some things like not speaking what you think as soon as you think it, stuff like that. So we do a lot of things with college and training programs. And what I talk to parents about and young adults when they call is that, you know, you're really just looking for an accountability partner, and who doesn't need that, right? I need that. So it's somebody who we don't determine exactly what our young adults are doing, they guide it. So when you're looking for somebody to coach your kid or looking for a coach for yourself, you want them to highlight what it is that's important to you, and then help them to follow through with what you said you wanted to do, right? Because we all come up with like, I'm not motivated to do that. So some of the things that we do is helping with time management if getting to class on time is hard. Dividing college is like, what I like about college, high school, I think is really difficult because you have 7 classes all at once. It starts in middle schools, most places, lots of classes. It's wall to wall class. And in college, there's some breathing space. And a lot of our clients don't really know what to do with that breathing space. So helping to structure and find times for this math class that meets twice a week, but has daily homework that if you decide to do that the last day, you're not going to make it. So we help with that. When they do fall off and they need like to use accommodations, we try to normalize that. Like we all use different kinds of accommodations for different things, and having extra time is really not a big deal. So asking for that and asking for their professors, going to the DRC office, we go with some of our clients for that. Because then they're not going, we have some clients that are super sensitive about their parents going with them. Plus colleges won't talk to you without specific permission from the college student. So they've got to be able to do all that on their own. So we help with that. And then financial management is just a huge thing. I don't speak money like Sheldon. So I can like try to be like, okay, well, here's what works for me. And here's when it's getting out of our hands and we need to talk to somebody else who is more of an expert in managing all that stuff. But all of that is under this executive functioning umbrella.
And I think as you, Christy, as you go into this information, is one of the areas that you help would have to do with if a student's going off to college, like what is the best housing situation for them, right? Like, are they going to function well in a dorm? Is it something else? Is that an area that you help give guidance in?
Yeah, good question. There's several clients that have come to us that have lived in the dorms, some successfully, some they made a change later. The dorms can be really hard. You think that it's maybe something that's going to provide some structure, but some of our neurodiverse clients, when they're in the dorm, they feel more isolated because they don't have the same interests as maybe some of the peers on the same floor. And so, and others that are just like, this is awesome because I get to walk to my class and that's what's most important to me, So I think it is a discussion that we have, and a lot of times that decision has already been made before clients get to us. So then we're just working on, well, is this a good fit? Would there be something else that would be better? So yeah, just kind of considering how social are you? How much are you going to seek out social opportunities? How quiet do you need it to be? What about the lighting? What about night hours? Are you going to be staying up all night yelling on your video games and that's going to bother your, neighbors? Like there's also the impact of you on others around you. So just thinking about all those things when deciding where you're going to live first. But we've had some that have come to look at our housing program and we've decided that the dorms would be better for them. So it all depends.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot on this college support slide I rambled on about in the last one. It is important to think about the flexible timeline. There can be a lot of depression and anxiety in young adults around comparison to others. So if, and some of that starts to show up in high school if they're aware of how many AP classes other people are taking. Some don't have any awareness and don't care, but there can be some comparison around like, oh, I need to take 17 credit hours per semester and I need to be done with my associates in 2 years and my bachelor's in 4 and maybe 5. And that, and if school's not your thing, but you are interested in, a good job long-term and school is probably the best pathway for you, then start with 1 or 2 classes per semester or quarter. Quarters move so fast. So usually what we'll say is, okay, well, take 1 class that is of high interest of yours and another class that's maybe high skill, like maybe if you're really good at math and take that math class, but also, take this art class because you just enjoy working with your hands with ceramics or whatever, and get used to the pace of college before jumping in and doing all at once like everybody else or like the advisor said to do or whatever. You got time. Got plenty of time.
Yeah, I could see how that would definitely relieve some stress. Just don't have to knock it out between this date and this date.
Yeah, I think some people just need permission, right? They just need somebody
Totally.
to be like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
like they didn't know that was an option. So it's like, hey,
right,
let's break it into
right."
chunks, and I bet that's a huge stress reliever.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's repeated conversations about it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, certainly for yeah, and we have some that are just super high achieving and they're gonna do everything and everything all the time, no matter what. And we'll just come back and work with them on their resume because that's what they're gonna be
That's
doing.
are there any like signs that would help identify if a person is like ready for college, or if that's not going to be a good path? I mean, I imagine there would be.
Interest is huge. So going by what like if someone says that they want to go to college and that's a pretty good sign. That's the best indicator right there. And then some just kind of assume that that's going to be their pathway because that's what they've been talking about for most of their lives, or maybe all of their family did that or whatever. But then there's some that they really struggled in the school system K through 12.
Mhm.
And so what I see a lot of is maybe they're going to take like what they call a gap year, which sometimes they interpret as doing nothing for a year. So we talk about here's some other options for what you can do on your gap year. You know, volunteering or traveling, or, you know, how are you going to take a break from school, but also enrich your life?
Mhm.
What are some things that you can do for that? And that can help because then they can be like, okay, I think I'm ready to try like a class. And then others that they know that they, you know, they maybe took a class. We had, what's that computer? Cisco. We had a bunch of students in Cisco in high school. And so they knew that that was exactly what they wanted to do. So then they, you know, go to a technical college and they're very specific on what they want to do. It can be tricky if parents don't think they have the skill set to do what it is that their goal is, right? Like I'm going to be a game developer, but the executive functioning and they really just want to be a game test. Sometimes that can be tricky. So just, I always call it like planting seeds, like okay, so if this is your interest area, then this is going to be the first class that you're going to take. And then you just keep reassessing, planting seeds, seeing what other kind of opportunities are in that field, but maybe not, you know, narrowing down to one specific title that they're after. But I just say, pretty much all of our guidelines are like, if they have an opinion and your young adult knows kind of what they want to do, that's where you start. And that's what you lead off of, because that's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. And then you adjust as you go. You don't always talk, you don't have to have everything figured out. Right.
Yeah, perfect. No, that totally makes sense. I know, because that is true, isn't it? Like we'll have some model in our head, like, oh, I'm going to be a such and such, and you think that's all there is, but in reality, there's 14 different branches going off that might be better suited.
Right.
But yeah, people don't immediately recognize that.
Yeah, just kind of be patient with yourself, and yeah, yeah. I think employment is a really is important to start some of those skills as early as you can. I think some states have like your transition plan begins at 14, some are 16, where you're really starting to look at how you're going to get involved in the community. So starting volunteering or stuff at the church, or just anything where you're getting involved outside and around you, like customer service type stuff. That's how you really figure out what's going on and what kind of job is going to work for you. There's a heavy need for trying to find employment where you're not just bagging groceries all the time, right? And that needs to be the next biggest like push of what to do for young adults, because there's a lot that have way more potential, but they might be like, I had one client who was like a brilliant architect, beautiful, beautiful drawings, got the degree, couldn't get hired anywhere because kind of slow, like just not, you can't move fast enough. There's got to be something in there that they can contribute to that environment, right? Even if the pace is really fast. So, there is a Department of Vocational Rehabilitation that's a federal program, and I'm always talking to parents about that because it is free. All it costs is patience. You're just kind of waiting. But generally they will get you in. The federal funding, shifts from 4-year to 4-year, but even some of the clients that we have that don't qualify for other stuff will get some support through this program, and they can help also with college funding, and then they can help with jobs. And they do this like community-based assessment, which is awesome because you're actually going and trying the jobs in your community and finding out, okay, what are you good at, as well as what is your preferences, and they can try all that out and get you a job coach and stuff like that. So it's a really good resource for starting the job. If you're looking for like career-based stuff, like you have your degree and now you're looking for a job, they'll help you through, the Indeed process and online job searching and how to make sure that your interview skills are up to par. And that's a lifetime. Once you are signed up for it, it is there for you for the rest of your life, which is really cool.
Very nice. That's actually, Christy, we have just reached that threshold with my daughter. So for Charlotte, it's like we got all the DVR paperwork and
good
complete that and set it in. So we're on that journey, but haven't encountered them yet. So I appreciate the explanation. I didn't realize that their services were so robust. I wasn't sure exactly. So it's kind of a combination of maybe unlocking some funds and then identifying skill sets and such.
Yeah. And DVR will do your intake paperwork, kind of send you on your little path, and then there's all these vendors in the area, probably more rural places. There's not as many options, but in cities there's lots of different options for vendors. And so there's been some clients where they haven't been happy with the vendor that they chose at the start. You can change, because that's not set in stone. If you're like, this isn't working for me, then find somebody else. So there's lots of different options that kind of branch off of the DVR. And then I have some people that are like, I'm sick of waiting for DVR. What can I do? Well, you can also hire those vendors privately. So,
yeah. So those are the names like in my area, I'd be familiar with like names like At Work or Trillium. Are those are examples of those?
Yeah, Icron, Provail. Yeah.
Provail. So you get that's where you're assigned the actual job coach.
Yeah.
And they have the relationships in the community with the different businesses that maybe have opportunity.
Right. That's where all the networking happens. That's a little outside of my realm. I call in those people all the time. We have one specific vendor that works with our housing, like our apartment program, because then it's just easier for us all to communicate around. But yeah, it's pretty cool because there's lots of things that happen at work, and sometimes we're just trying to like piece together what happened. So the more people that are involved and the more open that the young adult is for letting other people help and do that, the more that they learn, and the employers learn as well. Like, oh, I need to give this guy a list that's written versus, yelling at him from across the room, because that's not going to work. He's not going to process it, or whatever it is that's a specific need for your worker.
We had a program, I think in the Rotary Club system. I think other Rotary clubs would do this, but I know in our area there's like 10 clubs. They have a greeter. So yes. We'd have these, young adults that would be like their first year or in that transition out to the first job. So they'd get to shake like, 100 hands every morning for 9 months. And
Gosh.
it was really cool to watch their growth from being super bashful to be like giving people hugs and just like all into it like this, really own it. And then, you know, we had I think we had a system where we would pay like a minimum wage amount. So it wasn't 100% volunteer work, but then they'd have assignments. But that was neat. That was my first exposure to seeing how that worked. And over that 9 months, the growth was just spectacular. It was really
Oh my
cool.
gosh. That's such a good way to do any kind of measure. Like people think that there's going to be things that change like in a week or a month. But really, if you look at, you know, a bigger, longer timeline, you just see a huge, huge growth. I remember you were asking me for one of your greeters one year or whatever, and you were like, do you know anybody that could be up at 6 in the morning? And I was like, actually, no, I don't.
Yeah, that took my Rotary Club. We're called the Bellevue Breakfast Rotary Club. So like we're there at 6:30 a.m. Everybody's a morning person, and then they're like, "How come we don't have any of that program going anymore?" And I'm like, "Well, not everybody's a morning person, and they've gravitated to the lunchtime clubs. That works out better for all
Oh, that's
involved."
perfect. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, most of our clients, 9 o'clock is the earliest we can find people to put time slots in for the most part. I'm like, oh, that's so funny. I think it's really important for that social aspect. You know, we have some clients that are super social and some that are like, I know you think I need friends, but I don't want any. And I think it's an opportunity to provide little trial things. Like there's some that want things that are really structured. Like if I'm going to interact with other people, I also want to be doing something with my hands and I want to be busy and I want to know what to expect. Like maker space, where they make like 3D stuff or, you know, cooking instruction or some, you know, and you can do any of that stuff. Like even at like your local Michael's, they have those classes and stuff, and that's interaction. And you never know where the networking is going to go. And then we have, and D&D is huge in our world, Dungeons and Dragons. We have like 3 of those groups. And then there's others that are just super social and they just want to be out in the world, seeing new things. We're going to go river rafting. I want to go to the airport and, you know, watch planes. We're going to Dave and Buster's, and they don't have sensory issues because they, you know, bring on the loudness and the music and all that stuff. So just trying to listen to your young adult and just, you know, try to inch them along to trying something and giving it more than one shot. Like, don't just go once, because some of my clients will think, oh, I really want a girlfriend. I'm just going to see her, meet her, and then she's going to be my girlfriend. And I'm like, it might take a little bit more time than that. So we just
that's a whole nother webinar, right?
we have a relationships group too. Like that's what we try to like educate. And it's the same thing for friendships. Sometimes people think that you just like immediately make friends as soon as like you're just gonna like everything about some person that's gonna come into your life. And if it happened to you before, you know, your memory might be a little bit off because there were some things that you forgot about that person that you didn't like, but you don't, you know, relationships evolve and they take time, and doing things that you're interested in is a great place to start, because then you start developing memories with people and you never know when you're going to retouch base again or if it is going to develop into a relationship. So we trying to find, there's lots of different companies that do all different types of social groups with disabilities, without disabilities. Some people go into meetups.com and try all of those things. Square Pegs is like a really cool meetup that a lot of our autistic identifying young adults will go to. So it's just important to, you know, listen and be able to find those outlets. I don't know anything about this page.
We're going to go ahead and turn the time over to Sheldon and talk a little bit about funding. And then we'll go ahead and take a couple more questions.
All right. Yeah, just real quick on the ABLE accounts. I would say there's still a relatively new concept. I liked it because it was a real nod towards the special needs community. And it's interesting, there's 2 bullet points: ABLE accounts, 529 accounts. So the ABLE accounts are 529 accounts, But instead of using them for directly specific college, it's for people that have been diagnosed with a disability before the age of 25. So that's the hurdle that needs to be crossed. I see the ABLE accounts getting used side by side with special needs trusts, so they're not exclusive from each other. One does not replace the other. I think ABLE accounts are, to a lot of the points that Christy was talking about, I see them very useful for higher functioning folks that actually have been diagnosed as with a disability, and we have that low $2,000 threshold that needs to be abided by for now. So they need another place to save money, and you can save that in these ABLE accounts, and then the money comes out with an ABLE account for. It's a pretty broad list. It's actually not that restrictive. It can be used for anything from clothing to housing to, it's very flexible. So I wouldn't sweat that too much, but you need to check. Each state has their state implemented. It's a federal program implemented by each state. So each state has a really good customer service line that you can call in. You can get all the details about how to qualify for the ABLE account. Once you're into the ABLE account, it is a investment style account. So you basically get three choices. Are you going to invest a very low risk, medium risk, or high risk? And you can get guidance on that. And then you can also get guidance about what those monies can be used for. The 529 college accounts are more restrictive for education, but they've actually broadened what type of education that is now. And another interesting piece of legislature that came out a couple of years ago was that for those folks that started with their kids as babies, building 529 accounts, then they come up and they are later diagnosed with a disability. Once they have that disability diagnosis and they're maybe not going to go down a traditional college route, you're allowed to move those funds. You can roll the funds from a traditional 529 account into an ABLE account. Very nice. Another really nice acknowledgement of our disability special needs community. The government funding, really Christy touched on those programs, anything from DVR to individual state programs. And before I leave the topic on the low threshold for net worth, California has some very recent laws that were passed that did increase that, which I'm hoping will have ripple effects across the country. I think it's a disservice to our people that have disabilities to have to abide by this $2,000 net worth. It's a crazy low ceiling. I think it was from 1952 or something. Never been updated. So California is kind of cutting edge on that. We'll have to watch, and hopefully that comes across. In the financial planning arena, you can search for financial advisors that have a skill set in special needs planning. So if you're looking for, you can just literally just Google search special needs financial advisor. And you also want to search for an estate planning attorney that's skilled with doing special needs trust. You don't want to go to a generic estate planning attorney, or for that matter, a generic financial advisor. Both financial advisors and estate planning attorneys, you can find them that are specifically trained in special needs planning and special needs trust planning.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and take a couple of questions. So if you have a question, go ahead and put that in the chat box, and we'll get started here. Sheldon, I believe we have a question.
Yeah, it looks like, Christy, this will be a good one for you. So how do you help young adults deal with a setback or a failure in a particular area like a college class or something at work? So setbacks, failures, college setting, work setting.
Yeah, huge. It's like if there's I have a failure in my life, I'm a failure at everything. I'm never going to amount to anything. Like, it's just this doomsday. Yeah, I've seen that. The way that that we do that is just rally as much as possible. It takes time to dig out of that. We had one that came into our apartment, like the apartment program. Well, we've had kind of a few, but there's some people that will come and look at the apartment program, and we're like, well, I tried living in the dorms, or I tried living on my own, and I did a terrible job for whatever reason. Either I failed out of college, or I couldn't keep my apartment clean, or whatever. So with those, that we handle them with kid gloves, just very gentle, ease in, very slow, and celebrate any small successes that there are. And it's okay for us to celebrate, even if they're not feeling celebratory. Like, we can celebrate and do around them. And then over time, like a big chunk of time, months, right? You start to see that shift in your young adult and your kid, where they're like, hey, like they might have this like bright day one day, and they're like, hey, now I'm cooking on my own. I'm using Blue Apron, 3 times a week, and I'm cooking my own meals. And, I mean, it's just small things. And then recognizing that we all have failures, and we all it's just part of humanity. So trying to normalize that with as many failure stories as you can find in your loved ones, and how they come out of that. Sometimes they can be open to those stories, sometimes not. It's fine. But it's really about like, when they come to us and they're looking for housing again, and they've had something where they've had that setback, then just talking about, okay, well, you've come to me to talk about housing, so you ready to try again? And what's going to be comfortable for you to try? And we've had people that have come, like they tried college on their own, and they failed out like several times, 3 different times, even though their IQ is at like 160 or whatever, and they're brilliant. But it's the executive functioning thing. You just be like, you just need a little bit of help. You just need a little bit of support, and we're here to help you with that. And, sometimes some clients will hear that from their parents, and their parents are their biggest cheerleaders. So then we'll group in parents and be like, okay, you got to praise, so-and-so for this, because we just saw this happen, and they take praise from you way higher than us. And sometimes it's flippity floppity. So working as a team to try and support and celebrate those small successes is really important for those who have experienced failure and just feel really down on themselves.
Awesome. And then here's one, you'll love this, because this is a personal opinion question. So Christy's personal opinion about how communities can better support disabled young adults.
That's a good question. What is my opinion on that? Just do it. I think just exactly right. Like, how can awareness? I think spreading awareness as much as possible. Some people, I mean, I've been in this community for a really, really long time, so it astounds me if I meet somebody who doesn't have the graciousness to just see another human for another human. And sometimes there's fear or ignorance, and they're just not quite sure how to help. So, when we have like community events and you're inviting all sorts of people, then there's an opportunity to see where the need is, because I do think that people really want to help. Like, we have a garden that we just started, and like the whole community, they're like, we love gardens. So then they're coming out, and then they're meeting people individually around gardening. So there's just communities just need to, I don't know, step up, so we're not all feeling so isolated.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, that's all the time we have for questions. And I want to thank both of you for being here. What an interesting discussion, and hopefully spread some of this good work around the country. I really appreciate you both being here. On behalf of Advice Chaser, we want to thank our attendees for attending. Look for an email soon with a link to the replay of this event. And you're welcome to share that replay with your friends and family. Here at Advice Chaser, we're all about helping you find a financial advisor who's a great fit for your life and your financial questions. Our matching service is free to you, and every one of our advisor partners has committed to offer a free initial consultation to anyone we introduce them to. Find out more by going to advicechaser.com and clicking on the link to find an advisor. Once again, from Advice Chaser, thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you at another webinar soon. Goodbye, everyone.